Bangladesh endured years of stubborn price pressures. Food inflation surged above 12% in 2024, even topping 14% in the summer, before easing towards the end of 2025, with food prices still rising around 7 to 8%. 18 months of the interim government under Dr. Yunus have improved the economy. This chapter begins 18 months later, in early 2026, on the eve of a new national election and a constitutional referendum. A banned ruling party casts a long shadow. Its exiled leader faces an unprecedented death sentence from the very tribunal her party once created. And yet, on the road to recovery, revenge is a key player in the politics of Bangladesh. This chapter goes into how political vengeance created the last disaster for Bangladesh, and how it may well create the next cycle. It asks questions no one in the entire political landscape of Bangladesh wants to answer during the elections. Who will pay the price for Tariq Rahman's 17 years of exile? Who is left for NCP to exact the toll that the students paid during the revolution? The Jamaat has reformed, but have they forgotten their leaders who were hung in 2013? It is ultimately what ordinary people experience on a daily basis. The price of commodities, the cost of electricity, the loss of workdays, and the sudden silence in the lives they live. For much of the last decade, Bangladesh's economy grew, but its vulnerabilities also grew. Under the previous government, big deals were often presented as progress, while the true costs stayed buried in fine print. Foreign exchange reserves tell part of the story. Bangladesh's published reserves crossed $48 billion in August 2021. Then, the slide began. By December 2023, published gross reserves had fallen to under $21.8 billion. In May 2024, overall dollar holdings were around $24 billion, enough to trigger serious concern about settling external payments. The crunch did not arrive in one dramatic collapse. It arrived in slow shortages, import backlogs, delayed energy payments, a currency under pressure. And in a country that relies on imported fuel, imported industrial inputs, and imported staples, shortages do not stay abstract. They become prices. After August 2024, the interim government pushed to rebuild confidence and restore inflows. By late 2025, gross reserves crossed $33 billion again, while readily usable reserves under the IMF method stood at $28.51 billion on December 30th, 2025. With a monthly import bill of more than $5.5 billion, that coverage matters. But it also shows how quickly a few months of disruption can become a national emergency. Trade between India and Bangladesh is often described as natural. Two neighbors, one border, overlapping supply chains. But the balance is not equal. In the 2023-24 fiscal year, Bangladesh exported about $1.57 billion worth of goods to India. In the same year, Bangladesh imported about $9 billion from India. India's own export totals to Bangladesh were even higher in the next reporting cycle, exceeding $11 billion in both fiscal years 2023-24 and 2024-25. This gap is not just a statistic, it is leverage. If Bangladesh depends on India for critical inputs, then a delay at a border is not simply a delay. It is a pressure point. And the pressure is not always loud. It can be procedural, an extra test, a missing certificate, a lab requirement that Bangladesh cannot easily meet at scale, a slow release at a land port where trucks sit for days. A major international trade center survey of 1,000 companies found that over 90% of Bangladeshi exporters face regulatory and procedural obstacles to trade, including long waiting times, administrative hurdles, and the lack of accredited laboratories. The result is a system where Bangladesh's exports can be slowed, while its imports keep moving because the country cannot easily substitute them. Classic example of how dependence becomes routine. until a crisis arrives. Then routine becomes punishment. The India trade deficit is painful, but the real wound is internal. The Awami League's leadership engineered a heist 12 times bigger than the one MDB scandal that got global attention for years. In 2017, people from the S-Alam group captured Islami Bank, the country's largest lender, at gunpoint. And over the next 7 years, they siphoned off an estimated $12 billion. They bought hotels in Singapore and villas in Cyprus, while the bank in Dhaka had to borrow money just to stay open. Then there is the debt trap, the Rupert nuclear power plant. Cost $12.65 billion. Russian loans, Russian contractors. Experts call it the most expensive nuclear plant in the world per megawatt. Hasina treated the treasury like a personal ATM, signing sovereign guarantees that now force the interim government to pay for projects that can never hope to turn a profit. One of the most controversial examples is the 2017 power supply agreement signed under Sheikh Hasina's government with Adani Power, tied to the 1,600 megawatt coal plant at Godda in India. The plant supplies around 10% of Bangladesh's power. That scale alone makes the deal politically sensitive. Bangladesh has paid Adani a tariff of about 14.87 taka per unit, compared with an average of about 9.57 taka per unit for other Indian power suppliers. When Bangladesh's dollar reserves were strained, payment delays followed. In late 2024, Bangladesh rushed to pay more than $800 million in dues after Adani cut supply by more than half. Reports later described dues that had climbed close to $2 billion earlier in 2025 before being reduced. But the deadliest poison pill wasn't money or the projects awarded. It was lead. During the July uprising, we didn't just see police shooting. We saw Chhatra League cadres firing military-grade assault rifles. The regime had distributed state armory weapons to its student wing. These guns didn't vanish when Hasina fled. They are still out there, buried in floorboards, waiting for the next street battle. The economy was always held hostage to Hasina's will. And the road to recovery is a long and arduous one. One that many analysts worry is mined with the temptation for revenge because so many feel wronged in so many ways. For the BNP, the urge for vengeance is visceral. For 17 years, their leaders were exiled, their activists jailed, and aligned businessmen stripped of contracts. The local cadres are hungry. They want to purge the administration. They want to see the police officers who beat them in the dock. They want the OSD officers reinstated and the Awami loyalists fired. History suggests a purge is inevitable. And sure, the argument for denazification is valid to an extent. But to what extent? If you fire 20,000 civil servants overnight, the government stops functioning. The road to recovery gets choked up with piled-up work. The goal must be to put Bangladesh on the trajectory for fairness and equality for all. Analysts fear that BNP may fall prey to its urges and engage the government in a never-ending witch hunt. Tariq-e-Rahman knows that you cannot build an economy on vendettas. In his return speeches, he pivoted hard. He didn't talk about hanging Hasina. He talked about the 31-point reform plan. He promised a rainbow nation. He promised foreign investors that the rule of law would replace the rule of the gun. His pitch is stability. We are the only ones with the experience to run the machine. Can he keep his party from seizing the markets while convincing the IMF that they are the party of law and order? The recovery of the nation depends on whether they can control their own hunger. If anyone has a right to be angry, it is Jamaat-e-Islami. The Awami League didn't just jail them. They hanged their entire top leadership in 2013. They view the International Crimes Tribunal not as justice, but as a weapon that is finally within their reach. The irony is stark. They are using Hasina's own machine to prosecute Hasina's men. Yet, Dr. Shafiqur Rahman is not campaigning on the gallows. He is campaigning on the model. Jamaat points to its shadow state, the profitable banks, the efficient hospitals, the clean coaching centers, as proof that they can fix the broken economy. Their pitch is ethical capitalism and their experience running the biggest businesses in BD. But the same student wing that took to arms against the Chhatra League and police during the uprising. It's also the same wing that scares centrists. Some argue that this street power, with the added legitimacy of being in the government, is a dangerous combination for stability in the country. For the students, revenge isn't political, it is personal. They are not mourning leaders from 1971. They are mourning roommates from 2024. The trauma of July, the sound of helicopters, the bodies in Ashulia, is fresh. They demand a complete purge. They want to ban the League, rename the monuments, and erase the last 15 years. This fire fuels their movement, but it also threatens to burn down the institutions they need to govern. Their answer to the crisis is the July Charter. It is the most ambitious economic roadmap in Bangladesh's history. It calls for dismantling the syndicates, depoliticizing the banks, and creating a merit-based economy. They argue that only they, who have no past corruption, can deliver a true recovery. But who hasn't been corrupted in the last 15 years? Inside the government, the Mahmoud and Nahid preach stability and legal process. But outside, their NCP peers talk about the rank and file, who took the bullets. To the boys on the street, reform sounds a lot like compromise, and compromise feels like treason. When the leadership decided to ally with Jamaat-e-Islami to secure the election, the liberal wing of the movement imploded. Figures like Tasneem Jara resigned in public disgust. The accusations she made were brutal to the party's stance as holding the moral high ground. With all the party's stances, their thirst for revenge, and even their internal and infernal dramas, anyone that takes the mantle forward needs to address so many more challenges. While Hasina left the economy poisoned, the reality of Bangladesh lies in managing an intricate and complex web that includes everything from jobs to trade deficits, and from bad energy deals to unfair competition, from local mafias to foreign influence, and from factory closures to ruptures in the bureaucracy. The Interim's work shows progress, but also fragility. Gross reserves crossed $33 billion again, and usable reserves under the IMF method stood at $28.51 billion, enough to cover more than 5 months of imports if conditions hold. Remittances surged too, exceeding $30.4 billion in fiscal years 2024 to 2025, a record level. The question now is not whether Bangladesh can grow. It has grown before. The question is whether it can grow without occupying itself in the politics of hate and revenge. In the streets of Bangladesh, the answer will shape votes. In the last 18 months, common folk are more occupied with rent, school fees, and rice. They need fairness, opportunity, and growth. Lawlessness, crimes against women, mob beatings, extortion, and even attacks on offices have escalated to record highs in 2025. The people are already voicing their demands for prioritizing their welfare over political vendettas.
আমরা কি সবাই প্রতিজ্ঞা করছি আমরা সেকেন্ড রিপাবলিক করব